welcome to not Toxic. We've already fucked that up. I was trying to read. Welcome to Fire Radio. I am your host who needs no introduction. On tonight's episode, we are going to be talking about some things that are hot button topics. But before we get going, got to cover a little bit of business, and that means me shilling for some shekels by you buying some cool stuff from Difrico on the interwebs. Go there, buy some AR-15 gear. You can buy their Tiger Claw front foreend grip, their monopod 2 plus magazine extension, and grips, things of that nature, all kinds of cool stuff. Enter code TOXIC10. I'll save you 10% at checkout, and it will put a little wind in the sails of this little pirate ship that I am pirating. Piloting on the pirate ship. Anyway, in my news, before we get into the week's news, I purchased 2 firearms this week, and here they are. For those of you very confused, in the eyes of the ATF, aka the federal government, this piece of metal is a firearm. And what that means is, so this, if you're not familiar, this is what we call a stripped lower. This is a stripped AR-15 lower. It has no trigger, it has no bolt, it has no barrel, it has nothing. This is just a machined piece of metal with a serial number on it. But according to the federal government, it's as deadly as this assembled firearm from Bear Creek Arsenal. This pistol has all of that. It is capable of firing. If I were to load it, it is unloaded, no magazine. Hi, I can see you. There you are. But this, in the eyes of the federal government, is just as deadly as this. So both of these require a Form 4473 and a NICS background check in order to purchase. And that makes 0 sense to anybody with half a brain. So anyway, now that we've smacked the ATF a little bit, let me ask you all a question. What does it mean to be an American? I find that not a lot of folks have ever really thought about that. I myself have never, up until recently, well, I've thought about it over the years, but I've never really put a whole lot of thought into it because I am an American and my family is Americans. This is becoming more of an issue because the immigration topic is a big deal. It's a 80-20, 90-10 topic of people are for limited immigration, deportations, and people are for curbing illegal immigration. There are very few people that are like purely anti-immigration. I am to that point at this point, but I digress. What does it mean to be an American? Have you ever thought about this? What does it mean to you to be an American? Assuming that you're listening to this, you are American, but let's assume that you're not. What does it mean to be a Rhodesian? What does it mean to be a Norwegian, a Finn, a Russian, a Japanese, a Chinese? You know, what does it mean to be a citizen, a person from the country that you're from? Is it a document? Is it a birthright? Is it, a process set up by the government where you take a test at the end? Is it an amendment to a constitution? Is it in your binding documents of the founding of your nation, whatever that nation may be? Or is it say the 14th Amendment, because you were born here, you are an American? And we just had a majority of the dumbest people on the Supreme Court ever to serve said that just being born here makes you an American and you have birthright citizenship and you can never, ever, that can basically never go away. So it doesn't matter that your parents or mother was pregnant with you and was visiting from, say, Germany, and, oh man, for some reason we went into labor, be it maybe early or premature situation, and with medical technology, we're able to keep the baby alive. You're able to deliver a preemie baby, and after a month or so, you're able to return to Germany, theoretically. But our founding document was to say that your German son or daughter is an American citizen because they were birthed here. That seems like an odd concept to me. I mean, what else is it? Is it being an American? Is it a cultural thing? Is it is it a thought? Is it a binding agreement that you have with the Constitution or the founders? Is it Christianity? Is it a religion? Is Americanism a religion? I think it is. I ask all of these questions because there's been this term called magic dirt Americans, or that people are made Americans through magic dirt. Because you're here, you're all of a sudden American. I came up with the term magic dirt Americans, the MDA class. So we're going to refer to them as the MDAs, the Magic Dirt Americans. Just because you're here, you're American. Just because you were born here, you're somehow as culturally relevant as my ancestors, which on both sides of my family date back with just some basic research. I've been able to date back the family tree to pre-Civil War, so pre-1860s America, some all the way back to the 1840s. I'm sure if I keep diving into it more and more, we'll find even deeper roots. Part of my family ancestry is traced directly back to the Hatfields. Yes, those Hatfields of the Hatfields and McCoys. So I mean, this is like American culture 101. This is, mythical Americanism. This is like having the last name Washington or something. This is very Jefferson. It's, there's a mythical nature to the Hatfields and McCoys. And all this was really brought up today. And I listened to, as many of you well know, I listen to Tucker Carlson quite a lot, his podcast. I find it very interesting. I find him very interesting. Just because I listen to something doesn't mean I endorse 100% of whatever they say or whoever they talk to or what have you. I kind of like when somebody talks to someone who's a taboo, who you're not allowed to talk to, because I would like to hear what that person actually has to say. I don't live my life by 5, 10, 30-second clips that I see on the interwebs that were cultivated by someone who has lacks moral character, if you will, lacks a conviction to themselves that they will say anything so long as it lifts them up, either financially, in status, what have you. There's any number out there. You see them all the time, the Will Chamberlains of the world, the Ben Shapiros of the world. So long as it's in their best interest, they'll say whatever needs to be said. But Tucker Carlson had a grieving father on his podcast, and I don't want this to be an indictment of the father or his loss or anything like that. He suffered a tremendous loss. His son was murdered. He was beaten to death by settlers in the West Bank of Israel, Palestine, Jordan, however you want to look at it. Judea, Sumeria, I don't care how you look at it. The fact of the matter is his son was beaten to death. According to him, he was beaten to death by settlers. In Zone A of the West Bank. So if you want to find out more about, Zone A of the West Bank, feel free to do that research. I don't really want to get into that so much because I'm talking about what Americanism is. So I have a little clip here. By clip, I mean me trying to hit stop and start correctly. This is from Tucker Carlson. This was, I think, 2 days ago. I don't know. Anyway, 2 days ago. And this is an interview he's going to introduce, but we're going to watch about 2 minutes of this. So here we go.
So with that, here's our interview with Kamal Moussalet. Kamal Moussalet, thank you so much for joining us.
Before we get going too far, let's just go out and say, not exactly a name that's as American as apple pie.
So I'm hoping you'll tell us the story of your son. And I just want to be clear for people watching that he was an American, not simply a green card holder or even a citizen, but a birthright American born in Florida, fully American. And he was murdered in the occupied territories by settlers. So tell us who he was and what happened, if you would.
Saifullah Moussalet, my son. My name is Kamal Moussalet. Saifullah Moussalet.
Again, not exactly an American name. And by the way, we see that Tucker Carlson apparently is, he might recant this. He's been known to do that, but he's endorsing the birthright citizenship, regardless of anything else. So here we go.
That was born in Port Charlotte, Florida. He was working at an ice cream shop in Tampa, Florida. And me and him, built it together, and we opened it up, and he was serving ice cream to kids. That was his job description. Saifullah in the summer of 2025, July. Um, he was in West Bank, Palestine. He wanted to visit his family. He wanted to visit. My wife was there at at that time, and his siblings were there. And honestly, he wanted actually to hopefully find a potential wife. You know, he wanted to get engaged, and he said maybe I can find my spouse there. And so I told him, you know, I was debating because business was booming, the ice cream shop was doing well, and but he convinced me that let me go there for now. I told him, okay, but what we'll do is that we'll kind of switch places. You know, I'll go take care of the ice cream shop while you go there. We spent some time together there together. We spent our holiday, the Eid, and we uh, attended my nephew's wedding, which is his cousin. And I came back to the States. I left him there. Um, so Israeli settlers, since April of 2025, they've been basically trying to steal more land. You know, the land theft that they're doing, and the land theft that they're getting away with. And since April, they've been coming to our town. It's basically across from our village. Across from our village, meaning these two big like mountains or hills, or one of them has the homes and schools and so forth, and then the other one is kind of like open field, but it's part of our village. Tucker, as you might have heard before, our village consists of 80% American citizens.
Thanks, Mike.
See you next month.
So you can get these
Yeah,
delivered?
of course.
It's
there's an
literally
ad.
water duck.
Yes, yeah, المزرعة الشرقية and most of Ramallah area. So like my father is the one that came to the States. My grandfather came to the States in 1895 on a boat and lived in New York. My father came in the 60s. So, you know, I'm second generation. I've been here for years, and I grew up in Clewiston, Florida, a small town by Okeechobee.
I know it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me get back here. Producing. So, does that sound like an American to you? Again, I'm not trying to put down the situation. It's horrific that he lost his son. But these are the petty squabbles that we talk about here that we don't want brought here. You know, you can say that, oh, this happened over there. This was a squabble between, you know, Israeli settlers and a Palestinian, and they do that over there. Well, when you bring that here, you bring here the same thing, because he used the same words of, he said that his son went there. He used, first of all, he used the term Palestine, which whatever, that's a hot button word to, or you know, phrase to use, or whatever. He mentions Palestine, whatever, don't care. He went there to find a wife. Now, we can indict the American women all we want. We can talk about all the horrific things that we're seeing now with the Lindsay Clancy trial, and women that are like somehow identifying with a murderer, you know, a woman who murdered her 3 children, strangled them to death in ritualistic fashion, whose son ran away and hid in the office, and she went, found the son so she could strangle him. You know, she had this psychotic episode that just came out of nowhere, even though she allegedly told her husband to go away, bought the time, and, you know, did all of these things. So we can talk about any number of things with that. We can talk about how they're crazy. We can see the TikTok phases. We can see the SSRIs. But the fact of the matter is this guy and his family have never broken the bond that they have with some shitty land over in a fucking desert. They've never broken that bond. Not only was he looking for a wife over there, the father uses the term our land, our town, our village. But he says, I was born in somewhere in Florida, Lewiston, Clewiston, I don't know. His accent's too goddamn thick for me to really understand some of the things that he says. But somehow he says the name of his son perfectly, which I still don't really understand the name of his son, Holly or something like that. It sounds like he's hacking something up. You cannot sit there and tell me that you're an American when you have that deep of an accent. You can't tell me that you're an American. You might be an American based on the foolish birthright citizenship, but you're not an American at heart. You're not culturally American. You're culturally a Palestinian. Now, you've been misplaced or displaced from your quote unquote homeland, but that's a you problem, not a me, an American problem. Oh, but his grandfather came over here on a boat in 1890s. I don't care. You were probably fleeing Zionism or something like that, but your father wasn't here. Why did your grandfather come here without your father? That's an odd thing. So he didn't even set his roots here. He didn't bring his roots with him. He did not uproot and come here, and you have not done the same thing. He is not an American. Oh, but he's a business owner, blah, blah, blah. He mentions that 80% of the people in his village, in his town, are Americans. No, they're not. Because you don't have any loyalty to America. America, to be an American, to come from somewhere else, or be a first generation, second generation, whatever you want to call it, whatever you are from a foreign land, this is a burn the boat scenario. There's nowhere to flee for me, even for Tucker Carlson. And I understand what Tucker's doing. He's a provocateur. He's like, he wants to kind of, ruffle the feathers. He wants to get people upset. He wants people to talk, and it works. You can't say that it doesn't work. It's creating a whole bunch of conversations, some of which are stupid and some of which really make sense. But the fact of the matter is this guy and his son were not Americans. That doesn't mean his son deserved to be beaten to death, but he's not an American. This is the thing. If he accepted being an American, his son would not have been over there. He could not have been beaten to death by settlers. But because they bitterly clinging to the scrap of trash land, which you have not abandoned, you just came here for the safety, security, prosperity of our country. It makes you a parasite. Your son has now suffered the consequences of some petty squabble that you should have left behind, came here and been truly American. Why do you own land over there in some shithole? Because you plan on going back. You plan on trying to recapture something that someone down your lineage once had. I can trace roots directly to Schweinfurt, Germany. Okay? I don't care. I have family in Schweinfurt, Germany. Never met them. Be cool to meet him, wouldn't mind going there. But here's the thing. I have no tie to Germany or Schweinfurt. I don't give a shit. It appears to be a very, very pretty part of the world. Good for them. It got bombed or tried. We tried to bomb it in World War II. They had some pretty stout air defenses, apparently. And we tried to carpet bomb Schweinfurt and get a ball bearing factory that starts with an F and ends with two G's, not just one. But yes, it's that. Forward assist grip as an acronym, if you will. They tried to bomb it, couldn't bomb it. Had they succeeded, my grandmother might have been killed, and I might not be here. But the fact of the matter is this. My loyalty is to the United States of America. I don't really give a shit about Germany. If it ends tomorrow, that would be sad. But guess what? This is where I'm at. These are my boats that I've burned. This is where I be. I have no intent on trying to purchase land somewhere in Germany, in Schweinfurt, anywhere over there. It's over. Same with Ireland and the Irish heritage. I have no intention of ever trying to live in fucking Ireland. I hope Ireland remains Irish, but that's up to them. Not my fight. Same thing here. If you I said I wasn't going to do this, but I'm going to do this. This is the father's fault. Possibly the grandfather's fault, but this is definitely partially the father's fault. Had you just said, look, we're not Palestinian, we do not have any ties to Palestine anymore, or the West Bank, or whatever, that's gone, okay? We're Americans now, and we're going to be Americans in Florida. This is where you were born, son. This is where I was born. This is who we are, okay? This is who we are. This is where your future is. This is where you'll find a wife. There are Palestinians here in America. If you need a Palestinian wife, they can be found. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that this guy and his father and his grandfather are not the only Palestinians in that part of Florida. I'll bet you there's a little community, if not a quite sizable community, for him to pick from. But the fact of the matter is this. When you don't abandon the boats, when you leave some sort of like, oh, we could go back, we could do this, these are the petty squabbles that get you killed. Now, there's an interesting aspect to the story, which I'm not going to play any more of this, so I'll just take it off the screen. But there is this interesting part to the story in which his son was with a group of people. He gets beat up, unfortunately gets succumbs to his injuries after some very dubious, things about an ambulance not coming, what have you. But he was the only one beaten up. So there's an aspect there. He was not like by himself, okay? And other people were with him, and then his own younger brother somehow showed up after he'd been beaten, and he wasn't hurt in any capacity. So there's some very odd things with the story already, but the fact of the matter, like I said, the father bears some blame for this because, again, you're not American. Being here on this dirt does not make you American. You're an MDA. You're the magic dirt American. Like all the H-1B people who come here with their bullshit. Like you're either American or you're not. It's that simple. You I mean, I understand if you have family abroad and you came here and they've stayed wherever you're from, obviously you talk to your family. But if you come from India and you come here and you're like, look, India sucks, I got to go there. America's the land of milk and honey and opportunity. If you guys want to stay here in India, you stay, but I'm done shitting in the street. I'm going to America. I'm going to become an American. Grab a Yankees hat, become an American. Do whatever you got to do. Buy a whole bunch of guns. Embrace the chaos that is America. Become American. Leave it all behind. Take your fucking turban off. Take the dot off your fucking forehead. Become a fucking American. Be an American. Drive an American car. Or at least maybe an Asian car that's made in America. Be an American. Start doing the American things. Enjoy barbecue. Enjoy catching fish and eating it. Enjoy cheeseburgers, hot dogs. Yes, you can bring some of the stuff from your home country, but again, you're an American. Embrace what we have. Take full advantage. Maybe not advantage might be a bad word, but, indulge in the excess, if you will. Eat the apple pie. Get 2 scoops of ice cream on it. Get the skillet hot. Put the apple pie, heat it up on the skillet, and 2 scoops of ice cream on that son of a bitch. That will cure terrorism around the world. That will cure any problem by these fucking crazy settlers. But it wouldn't matter, and it's never going to happen because you're still here in America, in the greatest country to ever exist in the history of mankind. Why you want to cling to some dirt that can't grow a fucking cactus in God knows where, I'll never understand. I'm sure my family had or has land in Germany. I'm sure my family has or had land in Ireland. Don't care. Literally don't care because both of those countries suck compared to the United States of America. Fuck them both. I mean, we've blown up Germany twice, basically. We kicked their ass twice. We leveled so many cities in World War II. We rebuilt the son of a bitch. They owe us at this point. But the fact of the matter is, be an American. So if you are a first generation, if you're an import here, if you will, you have to lay roots. You have to understand. You have to try to learn the culture. You don't try. You do learn the culture. Maybe you're not into guns. I don't quite understand it, but whatever. Find the thing that you're into, whether that's some sort of enthusiast thing of cars or video games or God, I don't know what exactly. Embrace it. Get into true crime. That seems to be a big deal amongst the white population. Do as the whites do. Go to Starbucks, watch true crime, and maybe strangle your kids in a basement, or at least, stick up for the lady who did. I don't know. Maybe don't go full deep in. Just kind of spitballing here, goddammit. But just listen, put a hummingbird feeder out and enjoy the hummingbirds, as I'm doing right now. That thing is bigger than shit. That looks like a small sparrow, actually. It's not. It's a hummingbird, but... Oh, they're fighting. Oh, got full-blown air war outside this window. Anyway, this is my point. I've got wildlife. Go buy a piece of land somewhere. Start a little homestead or just get some land and do whatever. Go buy the 3-bedroom, 2-bath with a 1/10 of an acre in the little suburb, the nice swanky suburb or whatever. Get a sales job. Get a high-end job. I don't care what you do. Crank out 3, 5, 10 kids. But give them all, like legit names like Sam and Dave and Bob and Mary and, whatever. Don't name them Paktoon and Tip Top and Quack Fing or something that sounds like you're hacking something up. Don't do that. Become an American. Be full American. It's one of the things that you really admire about, like, especially the Japanese when they came here, pre-World War II and post-World War II. Nobody called them like Kasa-sa-sa-san. The dude's name was Mark. And then you knew him for 20 years, and then you found out his name really was something else. He goes, but just call me Mark, or call me Dave, or call me Joe. And you never could pronounce his last name. But he told you a different name that he went by, and then he named his kids Sam, or Mary, or whatever. They became Americans. Become an American. Leave all of that shit behind. You left the country behind, but you're going to bring all the bullshit with it? So, that guy got his kid killed. So there's that. Speaking of kids, Massachusetts has gone off the fucking deep end. I think I got a video for that too. I do have a video for that. So, we will share this tab instead. So here's a video. Not much of a video. Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey signs the bill for abortions up to birth as Democrats celebrate, according to lifenews.com. What do you see in this whole picture here if you're watching this? If you're not watching this, let me describe it for you. You have a Karen haircut white lady signing a bill for an abortion up to birth, which is horrific, and then a whole bunch of white women standing around, many of which in nice frames, some that look like mine, and two people that appear to be in doctor's coats, all clapping, all white, mind you. I am looking for a brown face. There's one cuckold in the back with a phone taking a picture. It's probably this gal's, cuckold husband or whatever. These women are celebrating death. Absolutely celebrating death. I should probably add this to stage. Here's the damn video we're producing. Anyway, you see a whole bunch of women clapping. These are ghouls. These are murderers. These are evil people. Regardless of what your exact views on abortion might be, maybe you're a first trimester person, maybe you're a 4 to 6 weeks, maybe you're a heartbeat, maybe you're a whatever. But if you're one of those people that thinks that allowing an abortion up to birth is allowable, if that's some sort of norm, you're an evil piece of shit. That's you, okay? You're the same person that's probably defending this Lindsay Clancy lady who snuffed out the life of her children, strangled them to death with her bare hands, and just said, oh, she had a psychotic episode. No, I don't think she did. I made this joke. It's been years ago, and it was a joke. But unfortunately, much like so many jokes that you make about leftism and how far it will go, it ends up becoming true. And that joke was that I'm willing to make a deal. And it was about California at the time because they had a bill similar to that. Maybe it was about Virginia. It doesn't matter. But they had these bills about, no, it was California because they have a bill up to birth. And Virginia had a bill that I think got struck down, but it was going to be like up to like 48 hours after a live birth. But anyway, the joke goes something like this. I'm willing to make a deal with these states, Massachusetts, and California, that have these abortion bills that allow you to basically kill a viable child. I'll make you a deal. And here's the deal. You issue every new mother a .22 pistol, and by doing that, we'll expand gun ownership. We'll expand, people being around and familiarized with guns. And in doing that, you issue them a .22 pistol. It could be a Ruger, it could be a Smith & Wesson, whatever. We can hem out the details, hash out the details here in the future. But the idea is you issue them this pistol, and then they have until the child's age of 5 to just, snuff them out when they decide they don't want this child anymore. And we can work on the age. Maybe we can come down to like 2 years old or 3 years old because, the whole argument about abortion is that it's this parasite that's just suckling off the mother and it's taking all of her nutrients and what have you. And it's just this clump of cells that's really hurting the mother. And then it can't survive without the mother. And so therefore it's not really a human. It's like, well, that's true for an actual infant up until like the age of like 2 or 3 or somewhere in there, maybe 4 or 5, depending on the child and the how quick they grasp like food and water and where it is and all of these things, and can walk or crawl, mainly walk, and can reach upper shelves and really understand kind of some basic concepts of I'm hungry, food's there, I go get. So technically the mother is, or father too, like the child is dependent upon these humans, and they're not earning money to go get the food, and they're not going and getting the food. So even at the very least, they're still reliant upon you to do anything. So they are kind of parasitic in nature because they're using your labor to enrich themselves, and have food and water and shelter and what have you, medicine. So, I mean, you can make the case that you could just at any point until they're like 5 years old, fuck, it could be like until they're like 12 or something, or 15 or whatever, until they get a job. You can just snuff them out, put that 22 in the back of their old dome and just clack one off. So that was the joke. I don't think it's a joke anymore. I think that's kind of where we're headed. When you're talking about a viable up to birth, who is the savage that is like, you know what? 8 months in, got to get rid of this thing. Not working out, can't do it. Wouldn't be prudent, not going to have it. That's sick. I don't care who you are. That's sick. That's child death. That's a murder of a child. That's what it is. If nothing else, when you're talking about abortion, if you're the anti-abortion person, the pro-life, first of all, there's two arguments you can't engage with. Number one argument you can't engage with is it's a woman's choice, okay? Because when does the choice stop and start? It's funny how a woman's choice only starts when she now has a child, inside of her. And God damn. Oh, where was I? So there's the woman's choice. You can't indulge in that argument. Oh fuck, what was the other one? I've lost my train of thought. Anyway, the point is like when it comes to abortion, the other one that you can't indulge in. The other argument is that I'm pro-choice. No, you're not pro-choice. You're pro-abortion. That's what you are. You're pro-abortion. And, the people that say, well, I'm pro-life, well, that works, I guess. But then a lot of pro-life people, me included, believe in the death penalty. So you're not really pro-life. You're just anti-abortion. So it's anti-abortion, pro-abortion. I'm anti-abortion. And at the very least, these people need to understand when you're having this conversation with them, look. No matter what your position is, let's just everybody understand, let's get the basic concept down that you're talking about murdering a child. You're killing a child. It's the Bill Burr joke of mixing all the ingredients together for a cake, putting it on the cake pan, putting it in the oven that's preheated, and then somebody at some point, while the cake is in the oven, opening the oven, grabbing that pan and throwing it on the floor, and then they go, "What are you doing?" "I was making a cake." And then they go, "That wasn't a cake." "Well, but it would have been." "But it wasn't." "Yeah, but it would have been." "But it wasn't." So, there you go. Bill Burr, great joke. Don't know about his politics, what have you. It all is what it is. So, Massachusetts has gone fucking insane. These are some of the things, too, that these are really key issues, everyone. There's a great sorting that takes effect. But you can't, great sorting, if you're not familiar, basically you can vote with your feet and move to states that have strict abortion controls or abortion controls that you agree with. Again, whether that's, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, or heartbeat or something like that. You can vote with your feet and you can move to these places. If your state is like Massachusetts and you vehemently disagree, you can move to a different place that doesn't have that. The one with immigration affects kind of all of us. Now, it affects the border states more because they tend to, obviously you're going to cross points of entry. And don't just think about like Mexico. Think about Canada too, because Canada sucks too. Like Canada's a dying place. I guess Alberta is going to talk about, or they're going to have like a vote on leaving the Canadian country. Like they're going to become independent, so they're going to be a free agent. So that's how good Canada is, that you have a whole, what is it? What do they have? Territory or something that's going to like vote to secede from the Commonwealth. Commonwealth. They're going to be uncommoned from the Commonwealth or something like that. So Canada sucks. Sorry, cool. But let's move on to some. Unfortunately, I have to talk about Iran. Unfortunately, but it has to be done, and I'm the one that has to do it. So, allegedly, there was a plot to assassinate Donald Trump while he was in Turkey by the Iranians. Okay, none of this makes sense. None of it at all. I stated it earlier that none of it makes sense. It doesn't make sense from the Iranian standpoint. This is like the, you know, Assad in Syria using chemical weapons right after Barack Obama gave his red line speech that chemical weapons would be a red line for the regime, the Assad regime in Syria. And then magically, he used chemical weapons like a week later. And it's like, yeah, I don't know, man. That's dubious. It's also been debunked. That's the whole thing. Is like he didn't use chemical weapons. That was all made up. It was a lie. And apparently, Barack Obama was either smart enough or didn't have the balls enough to actually go with it. And good for him. Credit where credit's due. Horrible president. Good decision there. Still killed a lot of people in Syria. Still backed the wrong people. Still created ISIS caliphate. Still waged war in Yemen. Still killed American citizens overseas without any sort of due process, just trial, anything. Just killed American citizens with the drum. A terrible president, but he made one good decision there. Don't know how. Don't really care how he came to that decision, but he came to that decision. But the idea that Iran would assassinate Trump. Let's just kind of game this out. So I'm the Iranian regime. I want to stay in power. I think we can all agree to that, right? So if I'm the Iranian regime, it's pretty obvious. You know, you don't have to be an American to understand that apparently there's no appetite for, and they've seen us leave Afghanistan, and they've seen us basically leave Iraq. And they probably understand, or they can at least figure out, the Russians can figure it out, or the Chinese, or anyone can figure out that we, as the American people, have no appetite for boots on the ground invasion of another Middle Eastern shithole. So, Iran has not lost to this point. They've maintained a whole bunch of infrastructure, military infrastructure. They maintain their ballistic missile capability. They have the drone capability. They're dictating what happens and doesn't happen out of the Strait of Hormuz. They've got their acolytes over there in Yemen who can dictate what does or does not happen in the Strait over there. We couldn't defeat the Houthi rebels. They're not rebels anymore. The Houthis are in charge. We could not defeat them. We had to sign a deal with them, even after trying to bomb the shit out of them. Biden bombed the shit out of them. Trump came in and kept bombing the shit out of them, and they kept harassing ships over there, hitting ships over there with drones and small missiles, and they just didn't lose. And so we had to sign a deal with them, said, good, we're done. We're not doing it anymore. That was after like one or two planes fell off aircraft carriers who were taking evasive maneuvers against incoming drone attacks and drone swarms. So we decided we had enough of this shit. We're getting the hell out of here. Don't know what we're doing here anyway. And the Houthis said, that's cool. Handshake deal. We're done. We're not going to harass ships anymore. So the Iranians have that capability as well. They also have the capability of Hezbollah there in Lebanon, which, whatever. The thing is like, you can have this conversation and not be pro-Iran. I hate to, burst people's bubbles here, but like, I don't like Iran. I don't like Hezbollah. I don't like Iraq. I don't like Syria. I don't like any of these people. I want our soldiers out of there. I don't see any sort of interest that we have over there. I don't really care for Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, any of them. Okay? You can't trust them as far as you can throw them. But the fact of the matter is this, is that Iran holds a lot of cards. Iran has not lost. Iran understands that we don't have any sort of popular support. First of all, this war in its current capacity has no popular support. And Trump's numbers are reflecting that. The guy's down around like 33% approval rating. He's about to be in the 20s. Okay? So there's no real, and now we're seeing gas prices go back up to around here in Oklahoma, you're basically paying $4 a gallon for gas, which is unheard of in this part of the world. We have oil and gas in this state, from the extraction to the refining. Okay? So the idea that gas prices for 87 octane are $4 a gallon is basically unheard of in this state. And that's where we're at. So Iran understands that we in the United States. They hold the initiative. We don't hold the initiative. They hold the escalation dominance. They hold all of the cards. So it would make zero sense for Iran to engage in any sort of behavior like killing the president that would give the American people all of the initiative and all of the anger to go full scale on Iran. I mean, if you kill a sitting president, if you kill a non sitting president, but if you assassinate the sitting president of the United States of America, nuclear weapons are on the fucking table instantly. And a majority of Americans might agree with that. You definitely go from the, like where I'm at, of the idea of using nuclear weapons on anyone at this point is just, what are you even talking about? To if we knew for a fact Iran had assassinated Donald J. Trump, turn it into glass. I don't give a shit. Nothing of value will be lost. You're all gone. Like it's almost like, here's your ultimatum, Iranian people. If you don't overthrow your government immediately, it all goes away. Every bit of it. It's something to that effect. And I have no problem with that. At the very least, it's a full-scale invasion. We're talking fucking all the Marines. We're talking armor. I mean, army. All of it. I like it. Normandy style, like full-scale war. You'll have people signing up left and right for the military. The whole idea that we have, don't have enough active duty troops to actually invade will be done within 6 months. Will be like, it's your ass. And if you're Iran and you do that, you obviously are going to lose any sort of international support that you already have. The Russians are going to have to be like, I don't know, man, you can't be doing that kind of shit. Even the Chinese are going to be in the same boat of like, really wish you hadn't done that, guys. Have good luck. We'll see ya. It's just unfathomable. So this idea that Iran had this state-sponsored, we're gonna kill Trump, is absolutely ridiculous on its face. And then the idea that you had a guy in Turkey who had a man-pad system, was going to shoot down Air Force One or Air Force 2 or whatever, is absolutely absurd. Turkey's not some backwater third world piece of shit. They got a military. They've got intel. They've got a military that's pretty kick-ass. Okay, they can do some hurt at the very least. So Israel, all the stuff you're talking about, Turkey, you might want to back the fuck down. They can kick your ass. Okay, so it makes zero sense for the Iranians to do that because it changes the initiative. It changes everything. Now you got to go. At the very least, the regime has to go, and the international community is going to agree with that. You got to go. So who exactly is feeding this intel? And I'm not going to speculate exactly who's doing it. I think everyone's already in their head speculating who's doing it. It's not hard to understand. It's probably the same people that told us that, Iraq had weapons of mass destruction when they didn't. But who would benefit from this? Well, besides the obvious, which we're not going to talk about, there are other countries that would benefit from the United States of America and NATO and our allies, non-NATO allies, going in and fucking up Iran. And that's every Gulf state benefits from that. If Iran's gone, if they're off the board, if they're, a fledgling democracy, or if they're at the very least, they have no real centralized government, they have, no way to actually wage any sort of war to harass the ships and the routes there in the Strait of Hormuz, the Gulf states benefit from that greatly. Iran's off the table. They're not a player anymore. We don't even have to negotiate with them. The United States fucking took them out. They glassed those motherfuckers. Every Gulf state benefits from that. Yeah, in the short term, it's going to get a little bright. Wear some sunglasses, dog. Yeah, prevailing winds, what have you. But hey, we're going to be okay. Think in the long term. So this idea that Iran is actively trying to take out Trump is it's just ridiculous on its face. Is it possible? Maybe. But if you do like a percentage thing, I'm at like 5% chance that any sort of like plot on Trump exists. Because the thing is even the Iranians know they got to play the long game. Trump's there for like 2 more years. So if this goes on for 2 more years, hell, he might not be there for 2 more years. If you're still in this and the midterms go the way it looks like they're going to go, where the Democrats take power of the Congress, the idea that they're not going to impeach Trump that's absurd. They're going to try to impeach Trump, and they're going to try to remove him. And if they have the votes to do it, they're going to do that. And then he's gone. And then it's President J.D. Vance. And J.D. Vance is no fan of this war. None at all. He didn't think we should do this from the get-go. So, and I get this, all this bullshit of like when I talk about this about Iran with some mutuals and some people, and I get the people won't say it to your face, but you can see that kind of in their facial expression of like, whoa, this guy's like anti-American. It's like, no, I'm not anti-American. Anti-American is plunging yourself into this another foolish war that you don't have to be in. This is a war of choice. We don't have to be there. You got gas prices at $4 a gallon. You got inflation going out of control, and that's the whole next thing. Here's the Donald J. Trump talking about what he's going to do to Iran. No one has given the Islamic Republic of Iran greater opportunity to make. Fuck! You got the damn banner asset in the way here. Make a deal than me. Tragically for them, they failed to take it. Therefore, today I am announcing the most crushing economic operation ever taken against any country. This will be economic warfare and isolation on an unprecedented scale. Their navy is gone, their air force is destroyed, their military factories are now rubble, their currency is worthless, and their country is hanging by a thread. Let's just stop right there. Navy's gone, air force destroyed, and the military factories are now rubble. So they can't wage war. Then how are they still waging war? And why can't our ships get close to them to fly sorties, more sorties from a closer distance and hit harder with our cruisers and naval assets? As they're not gone. Anyway, back to it. Today, I am also announcing that any country that allows its financial institutions, businesses, airports, or government entities to provide any type of lifeline to Iran will itself face tremendous economic consequences. Oil smuggling, swap lines, cash transfers, exchange houses, ship registries, front companies, it all needs to stop now. You know who you are. This will be an economic D-Day. And we need all of our allies to stand with the United States of America to isolate and defend them beyond threat. These maniacs are on the ropes, and these historic measures will cripple them and their ability to project terror worldwide. Iran will never have a nuclear weapon. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. That is a Truth Social post that I stole off Twitter. So that's where he's at. More sanctions, I guess. And we're going to sanction the sanctions on the sanctions, or of the sanctioning sanction thing, or something. I don't really know what any of that even really means. The thing about Iran is they've weathered that storm. And while he's doing sanctions, this is what we have to look forward to at home. This is from the Kobisi letter. So this chart here is from the source list from Bank of America Global Investment Strategy via Bloomberg. And what this shows is the cost of debt to keep rising for 5 years until the yields drop 3.25%. So basically, interest expense on the national debt has hit a record $1.4 trillion over the last 12 months. Since 2020, the cost of serving the United States public debt has nearly tripled. If rates remain stable, interest payments are set to rise to $1.7 trillion by November of 2028. As a result, interest will surpass Social Security spending as the government's largest outlay for the first time. America's debt bill is spiraling out of control. 100%. $1.4 trillion. That's the interest on the debt. That gets us nothing. $1.4 trillion. Interest on the debt. To go along with this, interest payment reaches historic highs. So it's 3.3% of our gross domestic product, the GDP. Highest level ever. This is insane. So we're waging war on Iran. We're doing sanctions on people who do business with Iran. So we're like sanction the BRICS countries or something. You remember when we sanctioned Russia and the oligarchs and all of that when they invaded Ukraine? How'd that work out? So like Russia just left Ukraine, or are they still there taking territory? Slowly but surely, just grinding it out, taking territory of Ukraine. Is that what's happening? So they didn't leave. So that's interesting. So we're doing more of the thing that doesn't work on Iran, which is more of the thing we've been doing on Iran since 1979, 1980, somewhere in there. As I pointed out before, everybody talks about Iran. Oh, you can't trust them, this, that, or the other. I'm not entirely sure that there wasn't a deal that You know, Iran Contra was a thing under the Reagan presidency. I don't think the Iranians like Jimmy Carter very much, and I get it. Mutual there. I think it was a two-way street of the incoming, or what at the time would have been the campaign of Ronald Reagan and George Herbert Walker Bush. It's no secret that they made a deal with the Iranians to keep the hostages in the embassy until Reagan got elected, and the day he got elected, the day he got sworn in, they were to release the hostages. So they were willing to make that deal. Looks like, everybody hated Jimmy Carter, and the Iranians hated Jimmy Carter. We hated Jimmy Carter as, smart people. I don't want to say hate, didn't like him, not a very good president. I wasn't alive at the time, but he was a pretty shitty president. Obviously, Reagan didn't like him as president, wanted to be president, worked out better that way. So they were able to work out a deal where the Iranians, the second he got installed in office, they released all of the hostages at the embassy. So there's that. So you can obviously work with the Iranian regime, and then he basically sold them weapons during the 80s. They helped us after the first Gulf War. They helped us with the burning oil fields. There's a Werner Herzog documentary where you can see that the Iranians were on the ground with Americans and I think French and a couple other countries that I can't remember off the top of my head. Saddam Hussein had set fire to the Kuwaiti oil fields, setting them ablaze, which is very, very difficult when you set the oil rigs on fire. They don't just burn out. They just keep burning because there's a ton of oil. And so you have to go and basically knock the fire out. And the Iranians helped that. Interesting little tidbit there. Not an Iran fan again, but, credit where credit's due. But basically, the point of this is we're doing all of this while the country's floundering. We're fading. We're on economic collapse. We're on the precipice of a total economic collapse. And people are talking about how we need to finish the job in Iran, or that bitch strangling her kids, but she's innocent. This is what you're talking about while we're heading towards an economic cliff. Okay? So, I'm no economist. I'm just a guy with a high school education from a public high school that's a suburb of Tulsa that was like 99% white, whatever that means. But I can tell you this. Economic collapse is coming. How bad it'll be, I don't know. Will it happen? Yes. Can't tell you exactly when or how bad, but I can tell you that it's coming. It's the economy, stupid. You're just aiming for, the midterms are going to be bad, if that's a thing. I am not voting anymore. I'm out on that bullshit. But the fact of the matter is when the interest on the debt is 3.3% of your GDP, when it's, 1.4 trillion right now, and then it's going to be 1.7 trillion in, approximately 4 years if things stay the same. And the thing is that one of the ways to lower that kind of that gap is to up the interest rates. And so that might happen. But what does that do to the common man? This is the thing, is like the GDP doesn't matter to the middle class at all, because it's not a reflection of a healthy economy. It's a reflection sometimes of a bad economy, but it doesn't even really work that way either. But the fact of the matter is, if money's harder to borrow, if capital's harder to come across, meaning that interest rates are higher, it's harder to get that capital. And when you do get that capital, you get less capital because you're paying more on that money. So businesses don't want to expand. They don't want to expand locations. They can buy less material at one time, which means they can't lock in their prices for longer. So, if you're going to buy lumber and you need, 1 million board feet of like 2x4s. Okay, well, if 1 million board feet of 2x4s right now is $50,000, and you have $50,000, or you can borrow it and you can service that debt based on your product. Well, if it goes to $200,000 for that same million board feet, and you don't have $200,000, and you don't want to borrow that capital, because now that's throwing out of whack your profit margin. So you can only buy so many at once instead of buying for the year. That's a problem not only for you and your business and buying those things and keeping your product price the same, whatever that is, whatever construction world that is. It's also bad for the person producing said 2x4s, because now they haven't sold that million board feet. Now they got to think about, well, fuck, are we going to sell this million board feet? Maybe we should stop cutting these things down. Okay, so now the logging industry takes a hit. Well, how many guys work in the logging industry? That's a problem. Logging industry is the same thing. If you got to cut down all the trees, process the trees, haul the trees, well, you're dealing with diesel. That's the other part. diesel prices. We need diesel prices to be pretty low. We need them to be like under $4 a gallon for this whole thing to work. Putting all these sanctions on Iran, how is Iran going to respond? They've been pretty low key in their responses, to be honest. They've shown great restraint in their responses, but at a certain point, Iran is just going to have to say, I've had enough of this shit. We're not taking this anymore. And maybe it's like all or nothing. That's the other thing. If your sanctions actually work the way you think they're going to work, and like the regime is hanging by a thread, and you think that the more you do, this regime is just going to like wither away, like, then they're gonna like get desperate, and you don't want crazy people to be. You don't want anyone to be desperate. You especially don't want anyone to be desperate who's armed with a whole bunch of fucking missiles. So what are we doing exactly? There needs to be some sort of negotiation, and I'm sure he thinks this is some sort of like negotiating tactic, but it's not. It hasn't worked yet. Even though we've ended this war 38 times over, just in the last week, probably. This is not over. And it won't be over. Like you actually have to end this, and you have to figure this out. And this whole shit of like, we're just going to use the Omani waters of the Strait for the American ships. Do you think the Iranians are stupid? That to me, that seems to be one of the biggest miscalculations of the whole thing, is thinking that Iran was stupid and weak. You don't have to like the Iranians to understand one thing. They decided. Whenever they decided this, they decided at some point that trying to fight a conventional war against the United States is suicide. But if you go non-conventional, you arm yourself to the teeth with missiles, ballistic missiles of varying sorts, different ranges, and the drone technology, as opposed to building airplanes, building tanks, and having like, armored infantry divisions. They understood that that's not going to work. They can't outplane us. They can't engineer us in the plane world. They can't outbuy us in the plane world. They can't buy a whole bunch of like, Su-27s from the Russians, because they can't train the pilots to actually fly them. And then it's just the upkeep of it. So they don't have an offensive army. They have a defensive capability. And to be honest, it's smart. Because they understand the geography, they understand the terrain, they can harass the strait if they want, they can hit most of their neighbors, pretty much all of their neighbors with the ballistic missiles. They can hit Iran, they can hit all of our interests in the region. They've taken out numerous, many of our bases there, naval bases, land bases. Unfortunately for us, they've killed, I believe, around 15 service members at this point, all of which had died for no reason, unfortunately. Like this is not like some grand scheme of things, and I understand the people who want like retribution for those deaths. I get it. You should also want like some retribution in Afghanistan. I get it. And you want retribution for what may or may not be true about Iranians blowing up American service members with IEDs in Iraq. I mean, there's a lot of evidence that says it was just Iraqis doing it. And like, well, Iran came up with the technology. It's like, well, I get it, but that's like, blaming us for Israel using M4s. I mean, or the South Koreans using like an M4 platform, or the Japanese. It's like, well, yeah, it's dubious at best, or whatever. Would the Russians have been like, should they have attacked us during the Afghanistan war that they had when we gave them Stinger missiles to shoot down their helicopters? Like, I don't know. They get into the whole Ukraine thing, and we're using missiles there, and what have you, and technical advising, and blah, blah, blah. So it's like, it's dubious. It's really not a good argument to make, guys. So it's like, anyway, I understand you wanting retribution for that. I get it. But at what cost? To what end? What are we talking about? I see so many mutuals that are like, we just need to go in there and finish this job. We need to hit them hard. We need to do this. It's not working. You don't win wars with air. Air superiority doesn't win wars, like conventionally. I guess with nuclear weapons, if you're dropping nukes, that probably would work. But it's like, that's not where we're at. And then the people are like, we need to drop nukes on them. It's like, just stop. You're an insane person. For what? To what end? To what end do you want to be a pariah of the world for dropping nuclear bombs on a country in a war that you started? So that's the new status quo now. So I guess the Russians just fuck up Ukraine tomorrow, the next day after we drop nuclear weapons on Iran, hey, we set the tone. They're just following our lead. And I guess, like China can just nuke fucking Taiwan then, or Japan, or South Korea. I mean, if we drop a nuclear weapon, what's the dominoes here are they go anywhere. No one knows what happens. If we nuke Tehran tomorrow, okay, what does North Korea do to Seoul? Do they nuke it? Do they think that they're next? Because if you're talking about like ICBMs, from what I understand, the ICBMs have to go like that direction. And they also have to go like the Russian direction, because it's like it goes up and then the Earth does its thing and then it basically comes back down. So it's not like you're just firing it that way, and you wouldn't fire it the other way. So you got to fire it to our west. That's not good. And I guess you could put, nuclear powered submarine in the Persian Gulf and fire it from there. But now you've just told everyone where your nuclear powered submarine is. So I don't know. It's just insanity. I don't know. It's just fucking think once in a while, guys. Just fucking think. How about you do that? Let's end this with some good news, though. Put up a tweet here from Mr. Guns in Gear. All right, let's share the screen. Mr. Guns in Gear. Share that. Make sure you guys can see it. So, this is a tweet from Mr. Guns in Gear about the NFA. So, this is a report. I'm not really sure where. Oh, it's ATF report. Cool. So, read you the tweet from Mr. Guns and Gear. This is from August 19th, 2026, around 9:38 in the a.m. Mr. Guns and Gear tweets, a few positive items of note from the most recent NFA report from the ATF. Number one, there are over 6 million suppressors and over 1 million SBRs, short-barreled rifles, if you're not familiar, lawfully owned in America at the beginning of this month. That is well over the threshold for common use in terms of the, quote, legal standard for common use. Number two, this is the last month the ATF will be able to track lawfully owned suppressors on the NFA registry in American history. Those days are now over forever. Use safety equipment when shooting accordingly. So I'll bring this up. So this is for report for July. And let's see here. So the total number of NFA applications received, 225,231. Total number for Form 4 silencer applications received, 126,23. Finalized, 254,639. Total number of actual NFA applications. Well, median processing times for e-form Form 4 applications, 8 days. So, process year to date, Form 1s, son of a bitch. Form 1s, 202,599 submitted, finalized, 183,948. Form 4s, 1,092,729 submitted, 1,045,503 finalized. So that gives us a total of 1,779,930 e-forms. Total forms together, 1.8 million. So, firearms register in the NFRTR. Silencers / suppressors. Doesn't say suppressors, but I'm going to use that. So, as of August 4th, 2026, there are 6,654,209 registered suppressors in the United States. SBRs, 1.2 million registered. So that is some great news. People are out there doing the things, getting their stuff suppressed. SBRs, I just did 2 SBRs. I've got a suppressor back there behind me. Actually, I did my SBRs a couple of months ago, and I just got them engraved, so they're complete, they're assembled. I had a goddamn video that went pretty viral, almost 300,000 views, of me taking a pistol brace off and putting a stock on, and people lost their ever-loving minds on it, which is good. At least it got shared to a ton of people, but anyway. So, to be an American means you need to have a suppressor and a short-barreled rifle at this point. So you're not an American if you don't have a short-barreled rifle that's suppressed. And until then, I'm not going to consider you American, and you need to go back to wherever the fuck you came from. But anyway, That's just a joke. Everybody calm down. So, remember, MDAs, Magic Dirt Americans, are not Americans. They're an MDA. And now we have an acronym for them. They're MDAs, Magic Dirt Americans, not American. So, armed with that knowledge, and all of you that paid attention, listen to this, or are listening to it currently, I thank you. And you guys are great. Just remember, use code TOXIC10 at DieFreeCo on the interwebs. Get 10% off all of your AR accessories and shirts and cool stuff. At least go check out the website. There's a link in the description to DieFreeCo. There's a link in the description to my Twitter account, to Spotify, to YouTube, Rumble, whatever. Go check out the other things. Subscribe on the Twitter. That's where I'm most active all the time. And if you are listening to this after the fact, I first of all thank you. But also, if you want to join us live and comment and do all the things, it's every Friday night, 7:30 p.m. Central, live on Rumble, live on the Twitter. You can come in here, comment, or at least watch live and see how the sausage is made, if you will, and hang out with us. But until next time, everybody have a great weekend. Don't do too much crazy shit. Don't get caught. And until next time, peace.